Hi, I'm Malin Johnson with On the Bricks, and today we have Kyle Hawkins with us. He's an Edward Jones financial consultant, and he's going to give us some advice about retiring. Not what to do, right? After, but before.
Absolutely.
Yes, come to me if you want to learn what to do after you retire. Okay. Thank you, Kyle.
Whether it's a beach in or a house on the beach, wherever you're going, right? So thank you, Malin. My name is Kyle Hawkins with Edward Jones. I'm a financial advisor. I think I know pretty much everyone in the room. Does everyone know me? Okay. I know everybody. Yes, I think I went to school I did go to school with Mandy.
Okay.
So I know. I follow her on Facebook too, which is really awesome. She had a lot of fun.
Got locked out the other night.
That was awesome. That was awesome. So my wife is Sally Hawkins, who works here at Bank of the Panhandle, and then I have two kids, Hoke and Caroline. If anybody has any advice on changing diapers, let me know. I think I'm pretty good at it, though. So I was a graduate of Guyman High School in 1998 and went to OPSU. And graduated with a degree in ag business. And for the last 3.5 years, I've been a financial advisor with Edward Jones. Now, what I really see today's session in general being, guys, is I've given you some information in these folders here, and there's a lot in there. There's a lot going on. And I think for me, really more than anything, I'd like to sort of see this more as like an FAQ type of situation. I think you guys would get a lot more out of this. This is very exciting to me. These things are exciting from the standpoint of 401ks, simple IRAs, SEP IRAs. But if you guys don't know what all that means, then it's not going to do you any good. So I think really for me more than anything, I'd like to really just kind of give you guys a little brief information on a couple of small business retirement plans that maybe could benefit you in your business, or maybe you already have something in place, and maybe talk about that briefly. But then after that, maybe just sort of get your guys' thoughts on some questions that I hear from small business owners on a daily basis. So, really when we look at small business retirement plans, there's a lot out there. There's just, the world is sort of your oyster at this point, depending on how you want to save for taxes. Whether it's a 401k plan where you contribute for your employees and then your employees put some money in as well, you match a portion of it. A simple IRA is set up very similar to that. It's just as the name implies, though, it's quite simple. And then there's also SEP IRAs. Those are called Simplified Employer Pension Plans, where only the employer makes contributions. The employee doesn't really have any skin in the game at that point. Those really work well for, say, sole proprietorships, or maybe there's a partnership where there's just two owners. Those work really well in those situations. But something that I hear a lot is, well, I can't afford to save. I'm a small business owner. I can't afford to save. Does that sound familiar to anybody in here? Yeah, David. So. Expand on that, please.
Oh, well, I just, when I was a farmer, I was like, there was no way I could ever save,
Right.
And I was trying to pay off all this loans I had,
Mm-hmm.
So but there were a few years that came along that were good years,
Sure.
So we started IRAs and then.
Absolutely. I think that's the thing too, guys. The biggest piece of all of it is really just starting. I was talking to some high school kids yesterday, and just talking about saving, just getting started, just trying to figure out what you can do, what you can afford to do. I know as a small business owner, it's tough. You're trying to grow your business. Your accounts receivables are going up. There's typically more month at the end of your money than there is money at the end of your month. And so how do you bridge that gap? I think trying to figure those questions out and figure out what's right in those particular situations. David, you mentioned you guys started IRAs at that point. Did you guys just do it on a personal level, or did you guys do like a business plan?
Oh gosh, you're going all the way back to the early '90s. So the first we did, we did just IRAs, but then later I did some SEP IRAs.
Some SEP
Yeah,
IRAs.
I did a SEP IRA for, and then Teague, where she worked there, she had a 401k.
Okay.
Later we converted those to Roths,
Mm-hmm.
and then now we started another IRAs.
That's good. That's good. Does anyone else have business plans that they currently have in place? Okay. That's fine. I think the deal for this situation though really is, that encouragement of trying to do something if you have that ability to, some way, shape, or form. Why is a big question. Why would you do that? Retirement's important. Everybody wants to retire. I hear two things in my business. Malin, when do you want to retire? Yesterday. Right?
Honestly, not me. But
Not you, but I hear that a lot, and I also hear from small business owners, well, I'm not ever going to retire. I'm going to work my life away, and I'll be 80 and die in my store. And so, if that's what you want, that's great. But if that's not what you want, how do you change that? How do you do something different? And I think that's what we can sort of discuss a little bit as far as saying, hey, how do you bridge that gap? I mean, do you guys, in general, would you say does your business pay you? Do you take a salary? Do you just draw from the business? How does that all operate?
Well, that's essentially why we opened the bed and breakfast and working from home. I had helped my folks living on Social Security, and I told David, I said, we'll never be able to live on this if it's around. And our goal was to retire, take it as early as we could. His goal was to retire at 55, because so many times people wait till they're 65 and then get in bad health problems and still can't enjoy life. So that was our goal. We missed it by a year. He was 56. He says we're retired, but I tell him, no, we work from home.
That's right.
But getting the bed and breakfast, I wished I had done it 10 years earlier, but it is paid for now. So that's our income for retirement. Plus we have a lot of rentals. So I guess that's our business plan. When you said
Absolutely.
business plan, it's like, oh yeah, I do have one.
Sure.
But decided to go into hard assets. Instead of the money, the stocks. He's got a little bit in stocks, but it's more just to play with, and that's what we're going to live on the rest of our life.
So I think that's a good point, guys. This looks different for everyone, right? Jennifer's situation may be entirely different. She may want to start a simple IRA for all of her employees. Molly, you may want to do something similar too. It's all depending upon your situation. You guys went, like you're saying, the tangible asset route, where you have income every month, provided you have renters. You mentioned Social Security in there. I think that's something too that's very important to think about as a small business owner. Everyone pays into Social Security, hopefully. I think that's a big key. I will tell you, as a new business in town, that's important, Molly. That's I have clients. Just in fact, last week we had a small business owner for a number of years, and they're looking to retire now. And they've done well saving in their IRAs, and then she worked at a company where they had a 401k, and they did well, but Social Security is going to make up a portion of their retirement. And so we start talking about that and saying, okay, well, how much is your Social Security going to be? And which www.ssa.gov. Even if I got on there yesterday and got myself locked out. It happens. And then I got a call back from Social Security. I'm like, yeah, I don't know what's happening. We'll unlock your account. And then I got myself locked out again. But what I did was, and even at my age, I'm next month going to be 38 years old. I think it's important to start looking at what Social Security is going to look like for me. I hope that number is going to go up. I hope I'm going to keep making a little more money than I have. But it's important to think about those things. Back to my situation with my clients is he, as a small business owner, had some pretty lean years. He didn't pay into Social Security for a long time. So he said, well, we can't count on mine because I really don't have any to speak of. Even though he made a substantial amount more money in his career, his Social Security is going to be next to nothing compared to his wife's. So, and just to speak to your point about whether it'll be there or not, I think that at some level it will be there. I think it will look different by the time each one of us gets there, but I think at some level it will be there. So finding out what those numbers are, planning now, I think is very important. So, and the other thing too, we talk about, how you can't afford it now. So how does that look? How do you move forward and bridge those gaps? And you say, well, let me wait just a few years. When I get a little bit further down the road, I see a smirk on your face, Jennifer.
Yes.
I've had that thought too. I know. I told a bunch of high school freshmen yesterday to start now, and they said, "When did you start investing?" And then I didn't. The best answer I could come up with was not soon enough. Mm-hmm. That's the best answer, and it's true, right? I wish somebody would have beat me over the head when I was that freshman in high school. So I didn't physically beat them over the head yesterday, but I thought, what the heck?
Missed your chance.
I know. I had an opportunity with about 100 different freshmen, right? I was trying to help you out, David.
No, they wouldn't have felt it.
So in your packet, guys, there's a piece about the 4th page in. When we talk about waiting, it's a piece called What a Difference 3 years Can Make. And like I said, there's a lot of other material in there that certainly we can go over in a little more detail. I think this one's probably one of the more powerful pieces. We look at someone who is, let's just go to age 35, the middle one there. So if you're age 35 and you start maxing out an IRA, which is $5,500 a year, and then at age 50 you can put another $1,000 in annually. If you max that out every year and you earn hypothetically about 7% a year, at age 65, so 30 years later, you'd have $630,000. That's a pretty healthy retirement. You can live pretty good there. Now, if you wait just 3 years to age 38, but then you start down that path, you have $505,000. You have $126,000 less in 3 years. That's only $16,500 worth of contributions. So that $16,500 turned into $126,000. That's why I say I think this is probably one of the more powerful pieces in that packet. It's tough to do, right? It's tough to put that money away, but it's also very important. Now, if you want to be a millionaire, flip on the backside and you can figure out what age you are and see how much you have to save monthly. But if you wanted to be a millionaire,
Doesn't even go up to as old as I am.
well, I didn't know where to put the gray hair section on there. I was trying to find that. So that's kind of what we look at, though, too, guys, from the standpoint of when I say, it is hard to afford that, and a lot of times I would say you hardly can afford to wait because it is that important, and it can mean so much. You talked about your business. I'm so sorry, my mind went blank. Mandy's mom.
Marquita.
I knew it was like M-A-R or something. No, I knew it was something like that, and then my mind went, Mandy's mom.
Mandy's mom. I'll answer that.
There you go. You talked about your business as far as you have tangible assets, and really that's basically you guys' retirement at this point, and it seems to be working for you. Is that something that later on in life you guys ever want to look at? Have you guys thought about saying, hey, if we finally decide we're going to officially retire, no longer work from the home, selling those assets? Or what does that look like for you guys?
We have sold a couple, 3 rentals off just to kind of see what it would be and what our income would be at the, final there. As far as the bed and breakfast, we would probably just sell it as a home, not as the business. It's not a sustaining business, but I live in a lovely home.
Absolutely.
And have lots of good tax write-offs.
Yes, ma'am.
But as far as most bed and breakfast owners, usually have another one bringing income in. It's not a real, unless you've got 14 rooms, well, you're a motel then, you're not a bed and breakfast,
Sure.
But no, there's just lots of good benefits of doing it. But if we ever did decide to sell, then yes, that would be our retirement.
Okay.
And David's got it calculated out. We could live to 82 if we sold everything. My mom may want to live longer than that, so we better not sell anything yet. But
That's fair.
yeah,
Yeah, people are living longer these days.
They are.
Because they have good food to eat.
right.
If they eat good food,
Well,
they live longer.
That's the other side of it too. That's
But
the
we're
other
to
side.
the point now where we can start doing a little bit more traveling and fun stuff, where
Sure.
we don't feel like, when we did the bed and breakfast, it was like, I would talk to people, what's the biggest drawback? And they said, getting away. And I thought, well, that's the most stupid thing I've ever heard. You run the calendar, you mark it off, you take off when you want to take off. 4 years later, we finally decided we needed a vacation.
Wow.
Because we'd mark something off to go and you'd get 3 rooms. It's like new business starting out. Can't turn those rooms away, so we'd erase our plans and stay. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I can understand where they said that.
Absolutely. Jennifer, I would have a sort of a similar question, I think, for you, sort of put you on the spot. Sorry.
Love that.
And I know you do. That's why I pick on you a little bit. So when you guys think about retirement, does it look like selling the business and then utilizing those assets to live on?
Yes.
Okay. Just selling the business outright or leasing it to someone?
We've thought about both. Possibly leasing it.
Okay. And I think that's the thing to keep in mind too, guys, that how's that plan look for you? Because you can lease it and then utilize that income, but then you can sell it and then all of a sudden you have this lump sum of money. And then what do? Well, you come see Kyle, right? So that's something, but that's certainly something that you have to think about. And in all of that process, and there's another piece in here that talks about selling your business and the process that it is. How do you gauge what your business is worth? Is it a valuable business? Does it have value? Those types of things. I was really hoping that Shelby was going to be here today. I was going to pick on her just a little bit. I believe her situation would be a little bit different than, say, anyone else in the room. You guys have a tangible business that could be sold. I think Shelby in her situation where she has a therapy or a massage therapy business where she has a book of clients, that would be really difficult, I think, to sell. So it might be more important for her to say, hey, while I'm younger, while I'm starting, utilizing the IRAs, those types of things, as opposed to someone who has an actual business, brick and mortar, to place in the market. You guys have thoughts about that?
Well, I think if you own a business, and I can say this because I don't, so it's a lot easier. But if you have a small business, you ought to put together a succession plan so that you're selling a business, not just a building.
Absolutely.
I mean, what if you don't even own the building? So, but from the trainings we've had, it's a 5-year.
Absolutely.
You need to start planning out 5 years, but
At least.
so.
Could be more, depending on what you have and how big it is.
And I think that the succession plans can be as varied as there are businesses from the other trainings we've had. And that's something that people need to think about, not only the investment portion, but that. And one of the things you haven't touched with small businesses, one of the hard things is to keep employees. Does having a retirement plan help keep your employees?
That's So we're almost there.
Sorry.
I'm glad you brought it up. It's easier for you to bring it up than it is for me. No, I think it is. It's an employee benefit. Absolutely. You know, I think I had a conversation yesterday with a former small business owner who'd been in the business she'd had small businesses for years. And, you know, she said it's tough. She was talking about accounts receivables going up, trying to grow your business and how difficult that is. And she said, really, at the end of the day, we had money to live on, and our business was going to be what the retirement was. And our employees, we were able to give them basically a salary, you know, and then maybe some other smaller benefits or bonuses throughout the years. But she said that was really the extent of it. That's hard to compete with, you know, say Sally at the bank or PTCI or the college. There's going to be a retirement plan there, you know. And when people start talking about, hey, I want to go have a retirement. I want to retire, whether it's at 55 or 6 or at 70. They want to do that. And so those employees a lot of times will gravitate more towards those jobs. So yes, I think it's very important if you have the ability as a small business owner, you can offer some type of retirement plan to your employees. It can be a huge benefit. And that's where we really get into the different types of retirement plans. And again, like I said, we can get really caught up in the weeds on that. And I don't think that's where you guys want to be today. But you know, the basics, say a simple IRA, I see in my business a lot more small business owners moving in, say, that direction as opposed to a SEP IRA, because a simple IRA, your employees are going to have to put something in. So it's similar to a 401k where they're going to have some skin in the game. And you know, a SEP IRA is where everyone is a participant in the plan on some level, but only the employer puts money in. So if you as an employer, and you have an ability in a SEP IRA to put away 25% of your salary up to $54,000. So if you put in 18% of your salary into a SEP IRA, then you have to put in 18% of every employee's salary as well. So keeping those things in mind, I think, is important. It's an employee benefit. It's also a tax savings for you guys as well. So those are some of the real broad, basic benefits of those things. Do you guys have thoughts about that or questions about that?
Do the employees elect to be part of that, or?
So
I can't remember how. I don't know if it works the same as it did when I did mine 30 years ago.
Probably.
Yeah.
So yes, and yes, there's stipulations. So it's based on number of hours they work, you know, and then SEP IRAs also look at age. You know, age can be a factor in there as well. I think they've got to be 21. Don't quote me on that. I'd have to go in there and verify. But there are situations where they can, and as an employer, there are situations where, like, maybe you have to contribute 3 out of 5 years at some level, depending on their work hours. So that's a lot to it. But again, those really work well in, say, like a sole proprietorship, or where there's just a 2-owner system. So
Is there any kind of vesting schedule with any of those?
No, ma'am. The only time we see a vesting schedule typically are in the 401ks. And so you have to, is everyone familiar with what a vesting schedule is?
No.
No.
Okay. Thanks. So a vesting schedule is basically you have to be with the company X amount of years for those contributions to be 100% yours. And there are, like, say if you're with a company for 4 years, then 35% of those contributions you're entitled to.
Of what the employer puts in.
Right.
You get 100% of what you put in.
Right.
But if the employer puts it in, it's a way for them to have some teeth behind their contribution to you.
Right, and so then, like, if you look at like a safe harbor 401k, Most of those are set up where all employer and all employee contributions, just based on the match, those are all 100% vested day one. But then if there's any, say, profit sharing, let's say the business makes X amount of dollars that year and the owners decide they want to put that in the 401k plan for the participants, then that is subject to a vesting schedule. And a lot of times we see that, somewhere between 5, 6, 7, 8 years of service, you'd be 100% vested in those contributions.
What was the new law that just last year or two, something in regards to the IRA that the government came up with? What was that one?
That's a great question. I get to talk about that a lot every day. It is a fiduciary rule that the Department of Labor came out with, and basically what it states at the end of the day is that all financial institutions, advisors, anyone who deals with a retirement account now has to act in the best interest of their clients. I usually stay very quiet. I don't say a word until I either see that face or I hear, well, didn't you do that already? So what I would tell you guys is I was operating under that assumption already. So I don't know where the DOL came out with that. What our previous standard was that we had to do what was suitable for the client. So let's say you came into my office and you said, hey, I want to buy stock in XYZ. And I said, well, it's a good company, but maybe we want to buy stock in ABC over here. And maybe I got paid more to sell you ABC. There's a conflict of interest that exists there. And so the rule is really trying to eliminate the conflict of interest. It's trying to put all institutions and people who service IRAs on a level playing field. So the spirit of the rule is good. The intent of the rule is good. The paperwork and the trees that we kill now, it's just kind of an annoyance more than anything. It's really not difficult, but it's the spirit, like I said, is good. They've delayed the final implementation on some of it until June of 2019, but the rule actually took effect. The biggest piece of it all took effect June 9th of this past year. So, but it affects 401ks, IRAs, any type of retirement account. So the government's not getting your retirement. That's not what's happening. I've heard that before. They're not doing anything with that. They're just really requiring a lot more documentation. So really, say at my level on personal IRAs or business plans, it's really documenting, at Edward Jones, we look at it and we say, hey, to make sure we're covering all the documentation pieces of it, we're going to make sure we have a risk tolerance on file for you. We've talked about how aggressive you do or you don't want to be. And then we're also going to have what we call a financial foundation. The rule requires you document some type of financial goal. We frame that at Edward Jones as basically a written retirement plan. So we do the beginnings of a written retirement plan for you. So that's the basics of the rule. But that's a great question. What other questions do you guys have?
I think you need to explain a little bit more the tax benefits you talked about.
Okay. Which plan in particular are you looking at? Just any of them?
Yeah. Or actually, you might just hit with any.
Yeah. So let's start off with just saying, if we looked at, say, a simple IRA. A simple IRA is one where you as an employer can put money away on a tax deferred basis, and so can your employees, and then you can match them up to 3%. So you would have an ability to basically put away about $12,500 annually into some type of IRA that would grow tax deferred. Now you're going to get that as a write-off or a deduction from your taxes. So there's an immediate tax savings. That's just like a 401k or the traditional IRA or simple IRAs, they're all going to be deferring your taxes until later in life. The idea behind that being that later in life you're in a lower tax bracket, so that when that money does come out, you're going to pay the taxes at a smaller level. You're also going to get the tax savings immediately, which is can be a huge benefit for a small business owner. It looked like you had something to say there.
Well, I'm thinking through, numbers are not my deal.
You're pretty good with them, though. So that's the other. Fair enough. That's I think that's the other thing too, guys. Depending on your situation, which plan you look at. With a SEP IRA, you're going to be able to put a lot more money away if you would like to. If you make $100,000 a year and you want to put 25% of that away, then you can. If you make $200,000 a year, you can put $50,000 away if you want to. Those are immediate tax savings for you. The simple IRA, you're not going to be able to put away as much money. 401k, you're going to be able to put, I think it's 18,000. I think the limit this year is 18,000. So really, it just depends on your situation. What I would tell you too is the difference between, say, a 401k and a simple IRA. They act pretty similar in how their structure is, as far as the tax savings and the employee and whatnot. But the record keeping piece of it, the people that you need to involve in a 401k is a lot more bulky and cumbersome. It doesn't have to be, because obviously there are people that know what they're doing, but there's just a whole lot more involved with the documentation piece and the record keeping piece of a 401k. Simple IRAs are, like I said before, simple. What questions do you guys have on that?
You said there that you can only put in a certain amount. There's a certain amount you can put in a month or a year, or what? Is
A year.
per IRA.
Mm-hmm.
So we get like 4 statements in the mail every week about something, I think. So because we started late, so we are maxing out what we can put in as savings. So if you have like 4 different IRAs, then you can max each one of those out.
No, ma'am.
Oh.
You can only, so if you have, let's say you have, and your business plan can be different from, say, a personal IRA. So depending on your income levels, you potentially could max out, say, a simple IRA, but then also maybe a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. Okay. It just depends on your income level. But you can't, let's say you have a Roth IRA and you have a traditional IRA, just on a personal level, and you can put $5,500 a year into those. You can't put $5,500 each. You can put $5,500 between the two. So they're not going to let you just
person?
Per person. Yeah, on the person. Yes, ma'am. So you can't go in there and say, "Hey, I want to put 55 here, 55 here, and 12.5 here." Most likely, you'll be able to do, say, the 12.5 here because it's a business plan, but the 55, you're not going to be able to do 55 and 55. You might could do like 25 and 3, something like that. So.
What about the catch-up? Does that apply to IRAs?
Yes, ma'am. So over age 50, you have an ability to catch up on the personal level. On traditional and Roth IRAs, it's $1,000 annually, and then it is on simples. I want to say it's $3,000. I'd have to look at that and make sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, $3,000 on a simple IRA, and then SEP IRAs are a little bit different.
So a simple IRA is for a small business to help do for yourself and your employees.
Yes, sir.
A traditional and Roth IRAs are just individual retirement accounts that you do on your own.
Yes, ma'am. Or sir.
You're so
It's
pretty.
a compliment.
Well, you turned yourself around, and I was.
That's what it's all about.
I'm gonna have to have a swig of coffee on that one. Yes, sir. The simple IRAs really do work well for the business owners, but then again, it depends on your income levels and what your tax situation looks like. You might be able to do a simple IRA as a business, and then on a personal level, do something else. So then it also sort of goes back to the question I had earlier, do you pay yourself as a small business owner, or do you just kind of live off what the business makes? Do you take a draw, something like that? Because if you have earned income from your business, well, then that's a different scenario on a personal level for a traditional or a Roth IRA. So if you're not showing actual earned income, and that's where we talk to small business owners and say, hey, if you're taking a salary, regardless of the size, if you're taking a salary of some sort from the business, at least maybe on the personal level, you could contribute to a traditional IRA there, out of that money. You can also write a check from the business to a traditional IRA. I mean, you can make it look a lot of different ways. Does everyone work with an accountant? They're going to be able to help you out with that a lot too. First and foremost, I know enough about taxes to be dangerous, which is not a whole lot. But we have some great accountants in our area, and they can really help you out with a lot of this stuff too. And I work with a lot of them in town that we say, hey, this is what the contribution needs to be this year, because we're looking for this type of tax savings, or we only have this much in write-offs, so we need X amount in tax savings for the client this year. So that will vary from year to year. What other questions do you guys have?
The vested schedule, what happens to the benefit, the tax benefit and or the money when the employee leaves before they're vested?
I can answer that.
She's in the middle of it.
Goes back to the employer. And so the employer then uses it to pay forward to the next employee or whatever. So it's called a forfeiture. So every year, or every time we have somebody cash out of the plan, there's some portion that gets, either nothing gets forfeited if they're wholly vested. So the bank's vesting schedule is a 6-year vesting. We had somebody leave who cashed out of the 401k, and they've been here 2 years. So they were 20% vested. So 80% of what the bank had put in to their pot, which was like $3,000. I mean, it can be a lot of money kicked back to the bank, and the bank can use that then on its next contribution payroll to employees. So there's no tax, nothing happens. Well, technically the bank, there's some benefit to the bank, and that just reduces the future benefit, or reduces the future contribution, if you will.
Okay. I don't have that problem, but just curious.
It's something that people, especially young kids, don't understand when they have a 401k. And the scenario we had is there was an employee who had, I think she had $7,000. She left, that happens, right? She left, so she wasn't fully vested, so the amount she actually was going to get was about $3,500. And then she took it out and she cashed it out. And when you cash it out, you have taxes, you have federal taxes, you have state taxes, and you have a tax penalty from the IRS. And so from her $7,000, I think she ended up with like $2,500. I mean, it's incredible how much money you can lose from early withdrawal penalties on 401k, or the same for IRAs. Those tax penalties are significant.
And that 10% penalty doesn't come after you pay your taxes. It comes first. They don't say the $7,000, they don't say, okay, well, you're only vested this much and you're only this, you're only there, it's 10%. And then you get to pay the rest of it. So I mentioned to you guys, I talked to some high school kids yesterday, and I read an article the night before that said a 30-year-old that cashes out of a 401k with $5,000, first of all, ends up with, $3,000, maybe $3,500 tops. But what they miss out on in the next 35 years that $5,000 would have produced is about $52,000. So that $5,000 now that they only ended up with maybe $3,000 of cost them about $52,000. So the implications can be big. I mean, that's the other side of it too. Life happens, right? I mean, things happen, people need money. It just is what it is. but for sure the implications can be big.
Do banks ever loan money on little things like that when you go and say, this, I'm in this life happens problem?
Yeah. So we do what you would call like a CD loan, and so if you had an IRA an IRA, a retirement account, you can't. That's not collateral. I can't get it. It's protected. But if there was a CD, if you had a CD, then that is really common. So there's a lot of times people say, well, I have this $10,000 CD, but I don't want to cash it out, but I do need $5,000 or $10,000. And so we make a loan, and based on the rate the CD is paying dictates the amount, the rate on the loan. And so you get, it's that rate plus some number. So that happens a lot for people who they don't want to get rid of their cash. They know that they have a temporary problem, right? I mean, if it's a permanent problem, you need to cash in the CD and pay. But if it's temporary, then that's a good solution. If you're waiting for a tax refund or you're waiting for an insurance reimbursement or whatever, then that's a good solution. Workaround.
And that's another good point to talk about IRAs and retirement plans. With a simple or a SEP IRA or a traditional or Roth IRA, excuse me, you cannot borrow against that. You know, you hear about retirement plans and 401ks, I can take a loan out on my 401k. A lot of 401ks you can. Now there are some 401ks that their structure is such that you cannot take a loan from that 401k, but a lot of them are set up where you can. So you could borrow from your 401k and then pay yourself back over time. But all IRAs, you don't have that ability. If you take that money out and you're under 59 and a half, penalty and taxes. So, anybody in here have a partnership? Just briefly. Anyone have a partner? Everyone thinking about having a partner? Everybody just wants it all. That's fair.
I'm married to my partner. She has it all anyway.
There you go. I only bring that up. That is another small piece of small businesses. Sometimes we do see partnerships, and so how that is structured, how that looks, from your business standpoint. Do you guys have a buy-sell agreement where if something happens to one of you, the other one has, say, insurance on the other one with the ability to buy that half of the business? So I only bring that up just as another.
I think we started out as a partnership, but I think it changed when we went to the LLC, so.
Did it? Okay.
Mine is a partnership just because there was a lot less paperwork than a sole proprietorship.
Mm-hmm.
But it's just my husband and I.
Okay. So yeah, if you were to ever say take on another partner or think about that, those are things to think about, for sure. So, what else would you guys like to know about retirement plans?
So if somebody wants to come in and talk to you about retirement questions or business, you don't charge, do you?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am.
And I think that's pertinent. A lot of people assume that you do.
Mm-hmm. No, the way I get paid is when people invest money with me. So, just really basic information or sitting down and looking at retirement planning, those types of things. Those are free service that we offer.
And you're going to make the big bucks if Malin comes in and has all this savings and you can invest. Am I right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Money bags walks in.
So what I'm really planning on is you playing the lottery at Dizzy Bees.
There you go.
and then bringing that in.
Yes. But what I've heard you say is what you enjoy most is, or a lot, is when you help young people get started saving.
Absolutely. I love it when we help get anyone started saving because it's important. And I think if I had any message to give anyone in any talk or presentation that I did, it would be to do something. And just to do something. Yes, young people, I think it's an amazing beginning because if you'll start
even
when
if
you're
it's
so young,
$50 a month.
Do something. We talked to him yesterday about so a slice of pizza at the high school is $2. Can you live without a slice of pizza? Sure, for 1 week. Can you live without one slice of pizza? Sure. And if you take that $2 a week for 30 years and you earn 8% on that money the whole time, that's $13,000. That's not a lot of money, right? grand scheme, but you didn't put a lot in. So I think it's important to just start. But for sure, I think it's amazing when young people do.
Well, and a neat way to do it is when your kids start working is say, you can spend half of it and you have to save half of it. That's what we did with ours, and they started with a paper route.
Right.
And it's like, you want a new pair of jeans, you save up for it, but, yeah.
Well, and if
they
you start,
still, to this day, they save, I mean,
and if you start saving before you get used to spending it,
right.
you're not missing anything. I also read a thing about how to teach your children about giving. They call it the 80-20-20. So you have your allowance. 80% of it goes into what you can spend. 20 goes into savings. And then 20% goes into giving. And, you know, it could be the church or Loaves and Fishes, whomever, wherever. But giving back to the community and others. And I really thought that was smart. And they started it with 3 piggy banks and kids with an allowance. Because you don't wake up and you go, oh, I need to start saving today. It doesn't happen, does it?
No, and I encourage everyone, especially when I talk to younger groups, talk to their parents. Talk to their parents and say, hey, what are you guys doing? And that's not a conversation a lot of people have. So,
Kind of a crapshoot, right?
yeah.
Because sometimes they are doing, and sometimes they're not doing.
Right.
And so sometimes the information you get may not be as encouraging as.
But a lot of times
But it
we're
could be
willing to
eye-opening.
do something for our kids that we wouldn't for ourselves.
So what do you encourage, how do you encourage like high schoolers to save, to start with one of these or just a savings account, or what are you suggesting for them?
What I tell high school kids and what I told them yesterday was do something. I said, if you go to the bank and put it in a savings account, do that. If you want to start a mutual fund, start that. Just do something.
Is there an age that they can start an investment program with you?
Most of the time we have to be 18, but we can do what's called a custodial account before that, where basically the parent or whomever can sort of guide them along that path as well. So, and we have some kids. I have some kids who are 17 and 18 years old who are talking about getting started. So it's pretty interesting. I was over at the college a couple semesters ago and had a rodeo kid who'd had a great summer, and he came over afterwards and he said, Kyle, I've done really well this summer and I got a lot of money. And I know that if I don't do something smart with it, I'm just going to blow it. And so in December, he maxed out a Roth IRA for that year and came around in January and he maxed it out again for the next year. And he said, I'm just glad I'm not blowing it. So I think it's, and then I've got some others who are bringing $20 a week in. So it's all in how it looks. And that's, for sure, that's on a small level or on a younger level, but it's important, right? Even as a small business owner now, at an older age, it's still important. It's still very important. And I think it's boring, right? It's not a fun thing to do. It's boring. I get excited about it. David gets excited about it.
My wife's the one who really gets excited about it.
So yeah, I mean, it's exciting for me because it's what I do, right? But I know it wasn't that long ago that I wasn't doing this, and that wasn't that exciting, and it's boring and it's bulky, and it's like, oh, we got to do that. We got to go see Kyle again. Jeez. But it's one of the most important things that you will do. It really is.
Especially when you get our age.
I wasn't even going.
You look at me when you say that.
You're older than me.
Yeah.
And it's nice to have choices.
It is. It is good to have choices. You know, and the other thing too is we talk about sort of encompassing the young kids and adults and whatnot. Saving for college is huge. I mean, you know that full well. You see students every day who probably their parents have a 529 plan, and some who are working their tails off to make it.
529 plan does not mean a thing.
I know, but that's why I brought it up, so now I'm going to tell you about it. I say this to say this. What a 529 does is it's a college savings plan, and basically you invest in mutual funds, and then you contribute on an after-tax basis. And then what happens is later when your child or grandchild or whomever it is goes to college, they're able to utilize those funds tax-free. So as long as they're on qualified expenses, now they can't just go run up and down the road and spend that money. But if they go to OSU and it's $23,000 a year, or what's OPSU annually roughly?
17,000.
Yeah. So let's say you've started saving for your kids for college and they go to OPSU and they need to utilize that money for tuition and whatever, they can do that tax-free. So if they need a laptop, there are a lot of qualified expenses: books, tuition, room and board, all those different things. So they're a really great vehicle to save for kids or grandkids for college.
And if they don't go to college, what happens to that money?
That's a great question. There's a 10% tax penalty, and then you would just pay taxes on the earnings. You won't pay any taxes on the money you already put in because you already did, but you would pay taxes on the earnings, and then you would have a 10% penalty. But so let's use Mandy for an example. Let's say she has 3 529s, or you have 3 529s for the girls, and the first one goes to college and doesn't use all of her 529 money, and the second one doesn't go to college, but the third one's going to be a doctor and spend years in school. You can move those monies down to siblings. So that's always a good option too.
And one of the things that I did as a grandparent, I wasn't smart enough as a parent.
It's
Life happens.
you learn a lot in years.
Was rather than buying that stupid toy and all those batteries, I put into their education fund. So and at Christmas time they get an email that tells what savings is in their college fund. And I can miss some months, I can miss a year, but it still grows.
Yeah.
And so each one of the babies has an account.
And the great thing about 529s too is that, so Hoke and Caroline both have 529s. Anyone can contribute. So, if
Grandma?
Jennifer won the lottery, wanted to contribute to Hoke and Caroline's college fund, she could do that. But it's a good way for, like you're saying.
Yeah, and it didn't cost me any more
No.
than if I'd have bought presents.
Hey, Bert.
Talk about the return in the 529, because usually their return is usually pretty impressive.
Yeah, so 529s are predominantly mutual funds, and so each mutual fund company,
Which makes stocks.
right, stocks and depending on the fund, could be some bonds, but primarily stocks. But what's going to happen over time is, yes, it's going to go up and go down, but on a long-term average, if you've invested in quality mutual funds, you're going to see positive returns. So we see somewhere, right now, the 10-year average on the mutual funds that Hoke and Caroline have are right around that 7.5% to 8.5% a year that it earned for the last 10 years. Now, the last 10 years have been really good. We almost could have thrown a dart at the wall for the last 8 and done well. But overall, they're gonna do well for the long
And
term.
the younger you start them, the better.
Absolutely, absolutely.
But the 529 can only pass 2 siblings.
There's some other. It's a little bit touchy. Sometimes you could do cousins depending on which mutual fund company you do.
Oh, really?
But it's all depending, and you have to just kind of look at it and see on a case by case basis.
Kyle, if you have a employee, or not an employee, if you have an Oklahoma 529, can't you take deduction on your Oklahoma tax return?
Yes. So it's called Oklahoma Dream 529, and you can contribute to that, and then that would, because you're a resident of Oklahoma, that would be a tax savings for you as well. So it's all depending on your situation. Some 529s, the performance outweighs the tax benefit. It's all depending on what you want to do.
I didn't understand that.
I love
Very.
how you're honest and ask what we're all thinking.
No, I'm great. No, and that's the thing, guys. And I like I said, I get excited and get to talking, and so it means something to me. I want to know. So, if you contribute to an Oklahoma Dream 529 and you are a resident of Oklahoma, you can receive tax deductions for your contributions for your child's education. Now, some 529 plans at other mutual fund companies, their performance is that much greater and that much better than the Oklahoma plan, that the tax savings really are
Oh, but that's
null
the
and void.
choice, the expertise of your financial advisor.
That's right. That's right. And that's all on your situation too. You may say, "Hey, I really want to do that."
Okay.
I know. That's on me.
All right.
That's all on me.
I like that.
Very good.
So the same penalties apply to the Phone a Dream as did the regular 529, the 10% and all of that?
Anytime there's the number's 529 attached,
It's gonna,
that's what it is. So sometimes we see clients who open just a custodial account where they say, "Hey, I'm the parent's going to be the custodian of the account, the beneficiary is my child." You don't have those same tax implications later on, but it's going to be just like a regular account where you're going to get a 1099 every year on the earnings. So you'll pay taxes on a yearly basis.
But then you don't have the restrictions like you do the 529.
You don't. You don't have any restrictions past that. So if they don't go to college and you say, "Hey, here's you a nice start to life,"
Is it just for colleges or is it also for tech schools and things
a
like
lot of times it's for tech schools as well, the 529s.
Mhm.
Yes, sir. So, and it's not just for your
Tech
university.
schools and truck driving school.
Yeah, you got the number for that truck driving school?
I think that's true.
Yes.
I read that somewhere.
Yeah. So, and you can use it for postgrad. I mean, if you're going to get a master's or whatever you're going to do.
Is there an age limit?
You don't want to be over 18.
No, I mean like the
To when you're using it, like when you're going
can
to.
they use it like when they're 35 years old?
I've
or
not
40
ever
years
seen
old?
an age limit, so I think you can utilize it as long as it's still on a
As long as
529.
they're going to college.
Yeah, I think so.
Some people go a long time.
Hmm.
Some people
Yeah.
go back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was for sure a non-traditional student. I went back. So I earned my P. What other questions do you guys have for me?
Just because somebody who's watching this might want to know, would you give your phone number and for an appointment?
Yes, Kyle Hawkins with Edward Jones. My phone number is 580-338-8450, and I'm located at 316 Northridge Circle, Suite 3.
And you can deal in Spanish or English.
Yes, we have a bilingual office. Not me. But yes, we
The
do.
nicer one in
we-
the office.
Yeah, Mary's the one who really runs the show up there. She knows what's happening, and I just show up periodically.
Yes.
So,
So do we have any other questions?
thank you guys so much for listening to me.
Well, thank you for coming and talking to us, and it's nice if you can help people make better decisions. It's good.
And for sure, this is a bulky, just tough topic, but please know I'm available if you have anything.